How's it going, everyone? Got quite a lot to talk about in this video. A new patent has been filed by Sony that definitely has a lot of people thinking. Now, you gotta remember that patents don't mean that ultimately the feature will be realized, but it's something that Sony is at least thinking about working on, and we'll talk about that because it could be a very big quality of life feature as far as grinding in video games, so we'll talk about that. And a lot of discussion around Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 right now. I am excited for it, and I liked how they handled the announcement of the game, and also want to reiterate that the first game is very, very cheap right now, so reason to check that out right now, and we'll talk that in a little bit. But first of all, Sony has filed a brand new patent that is titled a method and system for auto-playing portions of a video game, and it notes the autoplay mode uses data from user play model to automatically play the auto game content for the user using a gameplay style that simulates a gameplay style of the user. When gameplay of the AGC and autoplay mode is complete, a resume notification is presented of the display screen of the user device used by the user during gameplay. By using autoplay mode, users can avoid the need to play parts of a game that they do not like playing and reduce the amount of time it takes to complete the game because the AI player can play the grinding portions of the game at a faster speed. How about that? If you're not a big fan of grinding, if you're not a big fan of, let's say, leveling for a while to beat a certain boss fight, whatever the deal is, this is something that is looking to mitigate that. And I could see some people being like, okay, now we're getting features to auto-play games for you, but this is something in MMORPGs where grinding is at the heart of every MMORPG, where it is utilized and it can simplify the process of games, especially if it gets super redundant. Now, in the case of MMORPGs, it's a little bit different because you've got people sinking thousands of hours into MMORPGs. If you're talking about implementing this into single-player games, you know, it's still beneficial, but you're talking about a single-player game, which, you know, you're gonna spend maybe, you know, the bigger titles 50 to 100 hours. But if you're talking about replaying a game, do you want to go through the process of grinding again if it doesn't have New Game Plus, so on and so forth? It's just something to consider. Anything that effectively improves user experience, and it's optional at the end of the day. Anything like this where people are like, oh, I don't like it, why are they doing this? It's gonna ruin the game, it makes it too easy. The games being able to be tailored to exactly how you want to play them, I feel like that's always a good thing. I'm never gonna be the person that'll say, oh, the From Software game should add an easy mode, but if From Software themselves decided to implement an easy mode into the game, I wouldn't complain about it. Now, I'm not the biggest Souls-like guy in the world either, but I wouldn't complain about any Souls-like title, any challenging game implementing an easy mode for user accessibility. At the end of the day, these video games are trying to resonate with the largest audience possible, and if any element can make a game more accessible to a larger audience, I'm all for that. Now, in the case of From Software titles, I know that generally speaking, they think that adding an easy mode will fundamentally hinder the essence of the game, and whatever the case may be, that's ultimately their decision. But if they decided to add it, I would be in favor of either way. I would never complain about something being implemented that ultimately increases user accessibility and user experience, which something like this I feel like could ultimately do. You know, it's a little bit different when we're talking about fundamentally restructuring a game to monetize it for a little bit, but restructuring a game to make it more accessible, if that's what you want to do, if that's ultimately your goal to reach a larger audience, and in the case of, you know, adding in components like an autoplay portion or a potential easy mode like we were talking about, I don't think that's fundamentally redesigning a game. It's just adding an option that makes it more accessible, if you guys get what I'm saying. I feel like apples and oranges a lot. But again, as far as patents go, Sony, PlayStation, they're filing patents all the time, and some of this stuff is realized, and some of this stuff ultimately is not. It's just they have an idea, it's come to the table. Whether or not it'll get implemented, and whether or not it'll get implemented in the near future, that remains to be seen. Some of this stuff bakes in the oven for a long, long time. Like, there are features that I'm sure Sony thinks about and PlayStation thinks about, and they might work on it for 6 to 9 months and then realize, oh, we can't implement it right now, and then they'll circle back and work on it, and then it'll ultimately come out 3 to 5 years after the initial inception, or even longer than that. So there's a lot of back and forth when it comes to stuff like this. But as far as something auto-playing games, like, I can go to bed and just have a grindy portion of a game go through it. Now, ultimately, something like this, auto-playing a video game, it can very much trivialize video games as well. So I would say it would be ideal for, let's say, the publisher or the developer to opt into something like this, and I feel like they would have to do that to opt into it, because I also don't think you wouldn't want an autoplay feature to, let's say, speed it up an Assassin's Creed game. I'm saying Ubisoft wouldn't want this because they're selling a double XP boost, for example, on their microtransaction store, whereas if you have an autoplay portion doing the grinding for you and you're leveling up that way, well, that would obviously hinder their ability to sell you microtransactions for like a double XP boost. I'm just offering that to you guys as an example that would require this to be an opt-in, opt-out type of feature. That would have to be considered as well. So take that into account on top of that. Moving on from that, I do want to know Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been announced. I'm going to give this game all the credit in the world because guess what? Warhorse Studio hasn't been saying for like 3 years that KCD 2 was coming. No, you know what they did? They worked on the game, they developed the game is almost ready to be released, then they reveal the game. As you guys might know, I am so annoyed, so sick and tired of these developers teasing games, announcing games 5, 7, 8 years before release. You know, you got BioWare throwing out teasers for the next Mass Effect game because it's N7 Day. Oh my god, like, don't even get me started on that because I'll rant about that, and I get it. It's trivial at the end of the day. It doesn't really matter. It's still annoying to me when a developer, like BioWare especially, when, you know, you got your work cut out for yourself to drop some of quality in Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and now you're talking about the next Mass Effect game. You're doing teasers for that, and this game's not going to come out until like 2029, but I digress. KCD 2, on the other hand, announced this year, coming out this year, and it was also noted that it'll be twice as big as the original game, and it's noted to be a behemoth of a game. What we are making now is what it was supposed to be in the beginning, but we weren't able to do it because we didn't have enough resources and experiences and all that stuff. We've proven the concept works, so now we can take it to another level, which we always wanted. To that end, Kingdom Come will be much bigger in scope, with 5 hours of cutscenes instead of 3, and a story that is much more epic. It will pick up the story where the original left off. You got the protagonist in there as well. We'll see how the game ultimately turns out, and hopefully it's one that people do check out. And maybe, you know, if this game builds up a level of anticipation and hype, I'm not saying it's going to be the biggest RPG in the world. KCD wasn't that big of a game when it initially came out, but hopefully it does fairly well and it handles promotion pretty well, because I always like the promotional aspect being tied to announced, release a few months after that. I know not every game is going to adopt that, but 16 months I feel like should be the cap, and I get it. There's the element of, oh, you want to reveal a game so you can get people to, you know, apply for jobs and everything like that. But for me, I feel like the largest window should be 16 to 24 months, and at the end of the day, there's going to be delays and things like that, so it could get extended, but sometimes we're seeing, like, you know, announcements 8 to 10 years ahead of time. Well, come on now. Do also want to know Kingdom Come Deliverance Royal Edition is 90% off on the PlayStation Store. It is down to $3.99. Base game, all the DLC. Disgustingly good deal. This is one of the best PlayStation Store deals, honestly, I've ever seen, and I don't think that's hyperbole. So if you want to see what all the fuss is about, KCD certainly has its shortcomings, and maybe not everybody is going to be into the more realistic historical approach, but if you like the more historical setting, well, it's another reason to get into the game. And $4, again, you can't even get, like, lunch for $4 these days, so getting a vast video game that's going to give you significant hours of entertainment, I feel like that's a pretty damn good deal. But that's going to do it for me. Again, interesting patent as far as AI playing a game for you to avoid certain portions of a game. I think that could be pretty interesting, but will come down to how it is implemented. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 looking to be twice as big as the original, and speaking of the original, that's down to $4 on the PlayStation Store, so go check that out. That's going to do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.